In this video, we're going to take a look at the stairs wizard. So on the tablet, if we wanted to create a set of stairs, click on the stairs button and touch the screen. Yes, I want to use the new stairs wizard. And I need to understand, am I adding a flight? Am I adding a landing? What am I doing here? So before we go into the tablet, let's take a look at what a couple of different staircases might look like. So in this staircase, there's two different staircases that we're going to play with. This staircase, we've got, what is this? Looks like there's a starter step at the bottom, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. These are boxed. There's a landing, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just assume there's 5 more steps getting up to the top. So we've got to ask ourselves, when we're looking at this, and I'm going to use LVP as my example as we're walking through this, but you could have the same discussion around an engineered hardwood or a hardwood. You could have the same discussion around a laminate. I'm just going to use LVP as my example as we walk through these. So we've got a starter tread down here. We've got our steps. These are all boxed, even though it looks like it's an open staircase. If I look, those are box steps. The other staircase that we'll look at is this one, where it's boxed on the bottom. We're going to have to guess at the number of stairs down here. Then we've got a landing, a bigger landing, and then steps moving up. So going back to this first staircase, how are we going to tackle this? Well, we could, on each individual step, we could create a stair by using a stair nose and an LVP board. In which case you would have, an LVP pieces and a nose, LVP pieces and a nose, and then on the landing you'd have LVP pieces and a nose. So what does that look like? Well, this is essentially what it looks like. You have a nosing piece that gets glued down, and then gluing down the individual LVP pieces. And obviously they're being cut to fit the space, and a riser board is being added. So as your installer works up the steps, they glue in a nose, glue in a piece of LVP, and then put a new riser and keep working their way up. Or the nose might look like something like this, where it's the same thing. The nose is being put on, and this is all being glued down. This is a pretty typical example of what that might look like when it's happening. Now, in this case, the installer is working his way down versus up. Most installers work their way up instead of down, but it doesn't matter. This is just an example here anyway. The nice thing about building a staircase like that and getting good at building a staircase like that, where you've got LVP planks and then stair noses, is that when you get to a funky staircase like this one, it's actually not that difficult. I mean, it's the same thing. It's a stair nose and a piece of plank. And yeah, the installer has to make unique cuts or interesting cuts. I think for me personally, I might have cut it from this corner to this corner instead of doing this angle and then having this weird piece at the back, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is the way that the installer decided to do it, and you've got a covered staircase, so that's fine. Another way that you could do these is you could use overlap stair noses. Now, I'm not a big fan of overlap stair noses. When you get to a landing, so here's a step coming up, you've got this overlap stair nose. At the landing, it's okay because people typically step over it anyway. But when you get to the individual stairs, those little overlap stair noses, there's not a lot holding them in place. And so because there's not so much holding them in place, over time, these overlap stair noses get loose. So I'm not a huge fan of doing it this way, but at the end of the day, you can do it, and the tablet supports it. So that doesn't necessarily make it right. It's just that there's enough people in the network that create stairs this way that the tablet was written to be able to create an estimate like this. So you can absolutely do it with a little overlap stair nose. I would strongly suggest that if you're going to use noses and planks, that instead of using the overlap noses, at least use a nose that has some meat to it. This is really small. I mean, it can be done, but again, there's so little mass that's being held together on the staircase. It makes more sense to have something that's a little bit bigger, that's a little bit longer, where at least the person's body weight can rest back here on this. However, there are companies that make full stair treads. Now, this is not a Shaw tread. This is somebody else's tread. Shaw also makes stair treads, and they are full stair treads. And so installing these is pretty straightforward. I mean, the whole thing gets glued down. And there are return pieces. So if you have a staircase like this one that's open on one side, you can do this. All right, so let's get back to our stairs for a moment. You've got a decision to make. When you're looking at a staircase like this, how do you want to attack it? Well, the landing for sure is going to have individual luxury vinyl plank pieces. So that's going to be the product back here is going to be LVP pieces. The question is, when you get to the stairs, are the stairs going to have individual pieces and then stair noses, or are you going to use like a full stair tread, an LVP tread? Using an LVP tread, something that looks like this, is technically a different product. Okay, so think about it like this. If I'm using this scenario, I may have a stair nose, or if I'm using this scenario, I may have a stair nose and then LVP planks, right? Those LVP planks are exactly the same thing that you're going to see on the landing. So I would have an LVP plank, and then I would have the LVP planks on the landing, in which case it's exactly the same product on the stairs and the landing, and then I'm simply adding the stair noses to each one of these treads. If I choose to use a full stair tread, so I use something like this, well, now it's a different product. Even though it looks the same, it's luxury vinyl plank, it's the same color, it's the same name, whatever, it's a different thing. So what's back here are individual planks. And yes, there's a stair nose on the landing right here, but then the tread is a full tread. It's not an individual plank. All right, so let's focus on this staircase first, and let's go into the tablet. So if I want to draw a set of stairs, let's get rid of this one, start from scratch. I'm going to hit my stairs button. Yes, I want to use a new stairs menu. I'm going to add a flight. So that bottom flight of stairs, let's just say that there's 5 steps. And I mean, at the moment, there's hardwood on those steps. So I'm going to call it the bare floor. Well, that's okay. They're solid treads right now, so we'll call it solid treads. Stair type is straight, boxed. That bottom flight is, we said it's about 6 steps, we're guessing, because we can't see them. And if I were to estimate the width, I'd say these are probably about 3'10". This staircase does not have a starter step, so we're going to leave that turned off and hit save. And now I need to do the landing. So I'm going to add a landing and hit my square button. And this landing looks like it's probably, oh, I don't know, maybe it's 8 feet wide by 5. And then I can add my top flight, and that top flight, again, I'll say that they're solid treads, they're straight, but they're single because it's open on one end. And sure, we can say, well, there's more than 6. I don't know, we'll call it 8 treads. It doesn't matter for what we're doing right now. Okay. So my first question at the bottom, it says convert landing to rooms. If I'm going to use the same product on the stairs and the landing, in other words, I'm going to use luxury vinyl planks on the stairs and on the landing. In that case, I don't have to convert the landing into a room. But If I'm going to use a solid tread on the stairs, that's going to be a different product than what's on the landing, in which case I need to convert the landing to a room. Now, the safest thing is to always convert the landing to a room, because then it gives you the flexibility of doing either. So that's fine. I'm going to convert the landing to a room and hit OK. And you'll see I've got my landing and my stairs. Here we are together. I need to set my space info for the landing. And let's just say for the moment that I'm not going to remove what's there. There's no furniture. Okay. All right, so let's set the rooms to install. So on the landing, let's say that I pick a luxury vinyl plank. That's fine. I don't need this. And I'll pick a particular product. You don't have to. You can use one of the PGs. That's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and pick this. Now for the stairs, set install info. So if I'm going to do luxury vinyl on the stairs, am I going to use individual vinyl planks with an overlap nosing? I would do something that looks like this: individual planks with an overlap nosing. Or am I using vinyl with flush nosings? In other words, am I doing something that looks like this? A flush nose. So you'll see, once that's put together, you can't see where the gap is, right? This has a flush nose. Okay, so full vinyl tread with flush nose, or vinyl planks with flush nosings. Or am I using a full vinyl tread with a nosing? In other words, am I doing something like this, a full vinyl tread with nosing? So let's just say that in this first scenario, I'm going to use vinyl with flush nosings. I can choose what my risers are going to be. Do I want them to match the floor, painted, primed white? Let's just leave them primed white. There we go. If I needed to add a stair nosing to the top stair, yes, let's do that. And then I can search for my product. Why am I having to search for my product? Because I've told the tablet that I'm going to use individual planks, so it needs to know what those individual planks are going to be. All right, so when I complete option, you'll see that the landing is a room by itself, and then the stairs are a section by themselves. All right, let's create another option. This time, again on the landing, I'm going to choose luxury vinyl, and we're going to go with Champion. Now for the stairs, I'm going to do luxury vinyl, but this time I'm going to do a full vinyl tread with nosing. And that way I'm not having to worry about whether or not there's enough mass to hold it in place. I know it's a full vinyl tread. So that's fine. And yes, there's a price difference between the two. Is that price valid in this case? I don't know. I would have to go in and, we have to verify that the pricing that's in the price list is accurate and all that stuff. But that's how you would create, in one case, a staircase where you're using individual planks on the stairs with some type of nosing versus a full stair tread. Now, I said that we would look at this other staircase, so we'll draw this one quickly. So I go back in the tablet, and I just want to draw a new staircase. So hit stairs. Yes, I want to use a new stairs wizard. So we said we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps in this first flight. And in this case, there is a starter tread. And again, these look like they're about 3'10". And that looks like it's some sort of engineered floor, who knows. And then we'll save that. We've got a landing, so we can add our landing. And that looks like it's probably about 4 feet by 4 feet. Close enough. Now, the same question, well, let's go ahead and add the top flight. This is also boxed straight, and we said that there would probably be 6 steps going up this way. All right, so the same question, convert landing to rooms. Well, am I going to use the same product on the landing and on the stairs? So let's say that on this staircase, we're going to do hardwood instead. I'm going to go ahead and convert this landing to the room so that it gives me the flexibility of being able to do something different versus the same. So that's fine. There's my little landing that goes with that staircase. And we need to set our space info. All right, so now let's create a new option, and we're going to play with this staircase. So in this staircase, if I'm going to do hardwood, for example, it's the same series of questions. Am I doing hardwood with a flush nosing? Am I doing a full tread with nosing? In other words, a retread, or am I using a solid hardwood tread? So you've got 3 options. The hardwood with a flush nosing is similar to the LVP with a flush nosing, or do I have a solid hardwood tread that I'm putting on, or do I have a full tread with nosing? In other words, a retread. So let's say that in this case, I've got a retread. That's fine. But on the landing, I need to add product. So, you know, maybe in this case, I'm doing a hardwood, and you can use a PG3. You can use whatever you want to use. Let's just say that I've specifically picked Meander Oak. Okay, so now in this case, I've got a hardwood landing and then hardwood retreads on the stairs. Okay. Well, what if I chose instead to use a flush nosing on the treads and the product on the landing? Well, let's create that option. So once again, I would set my hardwood first, and let's say that this is going to be Meander again. Now, when we set the install info, hardwood, but I'm using hardwood with flush nosing. So instead of picking a full tread, I'm using the nosing, and I have to give it the product name. Okay, so now let's just take a look at this option on the inside so that we can see. So on the landing, we've got our Meander Oak and everything that you would expect to do a room of hardwood. A landing is nothing more than a small room. And then on the stairs, we've added our starter tread because we clicked that box at the beginning. We've got our stair install, our risers, removal of what's there. And you'll notice that we have stair nosings for each one of the treads because we said that that's what we were going to do. So the Stair Wizard is actually a pretty straightforward tool. I find that what most people get confused about is not so much the pushing of the buttons in the Stair Wizards as it is just visualizing beforehand what do I want to do with this staircase. So if I'm looking at this staircase, Am I going to use the same product on the treads as I'm using on the landings? And I don't mean I'm using hardwood and hardwood, but am I using individual planks and then individual planks on the landing, or am I using like a retread on the stair treads, but then individual planks on the landing? And those are two very different things. Same thing here. This one just has the added complexity, if you will, of having some returns on one side, but it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Am I using the same product on the stairs as I am on the landing? Well, this might look like it's all the same, but it's not. These are individual planks that have been put back here. These might be full treads that were put in place rather than saying individual planks. So again, I think what a lot of people get confused about when they're using the Stair Wizard, particularly in the beginning, is not so much how do you push the buttons, but am I using the same product versus a different product? What am I doing with the landing versus what am I doing with the stair? And if you're struggling with whether or not to convert the landing to a room, the safest thing is to just always convert it to a room, because that's going to give you the flexibility of either treating it with the same product or treating it with a different product. So if you convert it to a room, you can always do whatever you want to do with it.